800 meters. Wind from the left, 8 miles per hour. Your breath halfway out. The trigger at the edge of braking. You don't think. Thinking is too late. The bullet covers those 800 meters in 1.4 seconds. You call the shot through your scope before the sound arrives. For the people beside you, there is no sound at all. A suppressor at this level doesn't sound like the movies. It sounds like someone closing a book. And then it's over. Nobody knows you were there. No press release, no decoration publicly awarded, no name in any official record. The mission doesn't exist. The location doesn't exist. You, officially, were never there. This is the life of a Delta Force sniper, the most precise instrument inside the most elite military unit on Earth. And it doesn't start with a rifle. Level 1. Before the rifle, you start as an infantryman. Everyone starts as an infantryman. Basic training. AIT. Your first duty station. A rifle company, where hundreds of soldiers do exactly what you do. Qualify on an M4 twice a year. Hit targets at 300 meters. The Army calls that qualified. You will spend years understanding what qualified means and what it doesn't. You deploy. Afghanistan, Iraq, or both. You learn what incoming fire sounds like when it's meant for you, which is different from everything you've ever heard in a movie. You learn that the problem in most firefights isn't marksmanship. It's chaos. Smoke, distance, men shouting grid coordinates that don't match the ground. And then you watch your unit's sniper do something you can't do. He lies still for 4 hours in a position that would break your body in 40 minutes. He reads the wind with a finger and a dry piece of grass. He puts a round through a window at 600 meters in fading light. And the chaos stops. That's the job you want. What it costs to get there, you don't know yet. Level 2. The school. The Army Sniper course at Fort Moore is 7 weeks. Attrition runs between 50 and 60% per class. You will not fail. They teach you the fundamentals as if you've never held a rifle. Natural point of aim. Trigger control so refined that a shot at 300 meters feels like an administrative task. Ballistic data. DOPE. Drop. Observation. Precision. Everything your bullet does between the muzzle and the target, charted on a laminated card taped to your stock. Every shot logged. Every miss documented, analyzed, corrected. Then there's the stalk. This is what separates snipers from shooters. A stalk is a movement exercise in which you cross open terrain, unseen to within 200 meters of an observer who is actively searching for you with binoculars. You wear a ghillie suit you built yourself, hundreds of hours of burlap and local vegetation sewn into a garment that turns you into the landscape. You move inches at a time. You spend 4 hours crossing 800 meters. You breathe through your nose. You don't swat the insects. You don't blink more than necessary. The observer walks to within 3 feet of your position and doesn't find you. You graduate. You return to your battalion. You are a sniper now, which in a conventional unit means you sit on a rooftop in Kandahar and watch a market for suspicious activity while your platoon patrols below. The work matters. It is not the work you are building toward. And there is one course that will change that, but they only tell you when you're ready. Level 3, SOTIC. The Special Operations Target Interdiction course is where conventional snipers become something the Army doesn't have a clean name for. You are selected by your Ranger Battalion or Special Forces Group and sent to Fort Bragg for 6 weeks. Every student here has already graduated a sniper course. SOTIC starts where that course ends. You shoot at distances Sniper school treated as theoretical. 1,200 meters. 1,500 meters. Targets the size of a human torso at ranges where the bullet is in flight for nearly 2 seconds and drops 11 feet between the muzzle and impact. You learn to read the wind not once, but continuously, because the wind at your firing position is not the wind at 500 meters and is not the wind at the target. You learn to read mirage, the way heat and air pressure bend light across distance, and translate that shimmer into a numerical correction. You learn urban observation, how to build a hide inside an occupied building in a denied area, how to cut a firing port in drywall at 3 in the morning without sound, how to establish a position that gives you unobstructed observation into a target location 48 hours before an assault element ever approaches the objective. You do not miss. Level 4. The selection. Delta's selection is 4 weeks in the Appalachian Mountains. You already know this. You've studied it, talked to men who went through it, accounted for it in every decision you've made over the last 2 years. You show up anyway. Everyone talks about the rucking, the 45-pound pack, the distances that increase daily, the 40-mile final movement with no time hack and no feedback from a cadre that observes everything and says nothing. What people don't discuss is that your sniper skills mean nothing here. Selection doesn't care what you can do with a rifle. Selection wants to know what exists underneath the skill. What's left when the mountains are dark and the miles don't stop, and nobody is watching. There is something left. You are one of 11 men who finish. Level 5. The squadron. You're assigned to an assault squadron. Delta's precision marksmen don't function as a separate sniper platoon. You train alongside the assault teams. You clear rooms. You fast rope from MH-60S at night. You are not a static asset who lies in one position and waits for a trigger pull. You are a mobile precision element who can support an assault from 1,000 meters and transition to close quarters in the same operation, on the same night, with the same weapon system. You shoot more in a month than most military snipers shoot in a year. From vehicles, from helicopters with the door open at altitude, from improvised urban positions assembled in under 20 minutes, from rooftops in cities whose names are classified. You shoot with suppressors that reduce your signature to something that takes a trained listener to locate. You shoot in conditions that cancel conventional qualification ranges. Rain, wind that changes direction every 40 seconds. Temperatures cold enough to shift your zero by half a minute of angle. You re-zero every time it matters. It always matters. Level 6. The hide. Your first deployment as a Delta sniper, you spend more time watching than shooting. Nobody who's done this job is surprised by that. You are anyway. The hide is your primary workplace. Sometimes a building, sometimes a shallow scrape in rocky ground covered with local vegetation. Sometimes a room inside a compound whose owner has no knowledge you're there. A breach so quiet it left no mark on the door or the frame. From this position you observe a target location and document everything. Vehicles by plate number and time of arrival. Foot traffic, military-age males, their routes and patterns, and whether those patterns hold across multiple observation periods. Which windows are covered and which aren't. Where the guard posts and how often he rotates, and whether his rotation is consistent or irregular. You do this for 24 hours, sometimes 48, sometimes 72 consecutive hours without leaving the position. You eat cold rations from a pouch. You hydrate from a bladder you refill once. You urinate into a bottle. You defecate into a sealed bag. You do not adjust your position except in controlled increments when your body makes adjustment non-negotiable. The patience required is different from anything the school prepared you for. In a stalk, the movement ends. In a hide, the stillness doesn't, not until the mission is complete or the position is compromised. You stop measuring time in hours and start measuring it in observation cycles. You stop waiting for the hide to end and start existing inside it. On the third night, the assault element hits the objective. You watch through your scope from 400 meters. You are the last line if the breach fails or a secondary threat appears from outside the compound. Neither happens. You collapse your position, recover your equipment, move to the extraction point. That's most of the job. But then there's the moment everyone wants to understand, and almost nobody actually does. Level 7. The shot. When it happens at the intersection of preparation and chaos. The scenario is always some version of this. There is a man who is about to kill your people, or has already killed them, or will kill more if this moment passes. He is at distance. You have a firing solution built over hours of observation and real-time calculation. You have a wind call. The range is confirmed by laser. The authorization has traveled down the chain from your troop commander to the squadron, to JSOC, to the authority that issued the targeting decision. You exhale halfway. You stop breathing. The reticle settles. You take the slack out of the trigger to the point where the brake is there, right there, at the edge of mechanical resistance, and then it happens. The rifle fires. You didn't choose the exact millisecond. Your trigger finger did, in the place where 10,000 repetitions live below conscious thought. The bullet travels 800 meters in 1.4 seconds. You call your shot before the round arrives. You work the bolt without looking at it. You observe the target through the scope and confirm the effect. The lawyers will review the authorization. The targeting cell will validate the intelligence. The debrief will reconstruct every decision in the sequence. All of that happens afterward. In the moment there is the wind call, the trigger brake, and what follows. You do not miss. Level 8. The wait. Nobody prepares you for the specific nature of this wait, and you wouldn't have understood the preparation if they'd tried. It isn't guilt. Not exactly. You believed in the shot when you took it. The intelligence was solid. The authorization was unambiguous. The threat was confirmed. You would take the same shot again under the same conditions, and the same conditions would be enough. None of that resolves the wait. The weight comes from the precision. Artillery has a blast radius. An airstrike has a collateral calculation. At 800 meters with a suppressed bolt gun on a clean authorization, there is no radius. There is one round and one man and one outcome. And the specificity of that makes it personal in a way that other forms of lethal action don't. Distance is supposed to create separation. At this level of precision, it doesn't. You carry the names, not as trauma necessarily, as inventory. The conditions, the range, the wind, the authorization, the outcome. The record is precise because you are. You can't average it out or let it blur into something easier to carry. You sit with your team in a bar in Fayetteville after a rotation, and nobody talks about the list. The shared silence is more accurate than any language available. Level 9. The transfer. At some point, you stop being the shooter and become the man who makes the next shooter better. You take a leadership role in your sniper section. You review training plans, ballistic data cards, wind estimation assessments. You watch the men coming up, the ones who have the skill but not yet the patience, the ones who have both and don't know it yet, the ones who can shoot but haven't learned to disappear. You can identify the difference within the first week of working with them. You teach the stalk. You teach wind. You teach what cannot be transmitted in a classroom, what the decision feels like at 800 meters on a clean authorization, with everything converging on a single moment and no one to ask. You are 39. Your lower back is a documented record of every hard surface you've occupied for extended periods. Your right ear runs at 65%. The VA will have paperwork ready when you separate. You keep training. Level 10. The cycle. Right now, at Fort Liberty, the operators still call it brag, a ranger sergeant with a sniper tab is reading a notice. He's 26. He graduated sniper school 10 months ago. 2 combat deployments and a SODIC slot coming in the spring. He can hit a torso-sized target at 1,000 meters in conditions that close a conventional range, and his chain of command knows it. And that's exactly why the notice found its way to him. He's thinking about selection, the mountains, the 40-mile movement with no time hack and no feedback. He's thinking about the operators he's observed on joint operations, the quiet men with long rifles and a quality of stillness that doesn't look like patience because it looks like nothing at all. He doesn't know what the hide feels like at hour 60. He doesn't know about the bottle, the cold rations, or the names that accumulate with precision. He doesn't know that distance doesn't create the separation he thinks it does, or that the weight of a precise instrument is different from the weight of any other weapon. He knows the date to show up. He'll show up. The best ones always walk toward the thing that will cost them most, because something in them needs to know if they can carry it. The rifle will answer that question. It always does.